This time on Waters of Tomorrow, the crew runs into the greatest threat yet, an alien who is really into cosplay.
Hello everybody, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi discussion show podcast thing that we haven't figured out a very good way to summarize easily.
It's an experience.
I'm Gepwin, I'm joined as always by my friend Dr. Isix.
Hi!
And yes, today we are looking at the Squire of Gothos. Original Star Trek episode, one of the famous ones.
Yes. You got crazy powers, you got sort of like iconic, I guess, villains, you got, you know, action scenes, and you got the Enterprise flying around and trying to do stuff, and yeah, let's go for it.
Yes, I remembered this episode very wrong. Last episode, I was thinking of an episode from the third season.
Oh, yes.
And, I've tried to edit it down to make myself sound less foolish, but,
That is acceptable, yes. Yeah, that's the power of editing for you.
Yes. What idiot? I'm not an idiot. Shut up.
I'm thinking of something involving Apollo, right?
Yeah, it was the Plato. Plato's stepchildren was what
okay.
I was thinking of. I think Apollo might be second season, but I don't know. There's too many Greek gods in this show.
Yes.
We haven't gotten to it yet, but why? There's too many Greek gods in this show. Just saying.
Well, I guess we gotta, explore the Greek gods in some sci-fi series at some point, right?
Yeah, I suppose. That's not Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, and later Stargate covers Egypt and some of China and even some Norse stuff there. And technically touches a little bit on the Greek, but more is we got Kronos, and then we just sort of ignore the rest of the Greek gods. Anyway.
Yep. Well, this episode, getting back to the thing we were supposed to be talking about, you can tell how much we think we have to talk about in this episode.
Already.
Yeah. This was written by Paul Schlanger, who I'm slurring the name of, so you can't tell I don't know how to pronounce it. Haha. He wrote Balance of Terror.
Yes.
This is the second and only two original series Star Trek writing credits. That, so far Balance of Terror was one of the better episodes, even though I didn't care for it as much. So,
I definitely prefer Balance of Terror to this one.
I think I might prefer this one a little more than Balance of Terror. But overall, I do think they're two of the strongest ones we've gotten so far.
Indeed.
I just don't think that's saying a lot. We are guest starring William Campbell as General Trelane, retired.
Yep.
Very important, apparently. He also plays a Klingon later on in the series.
Kaplan and stuff.
Yes, he plays the Klingon Koloth, who is in one episode of original series and one episode of DS9.
Yes. The trouble with Tribbles, and then how it was.
I have it written down. I just want to see if you can remember.
That's the one with Dax and the three Klingons, and they go on an adventure, right?
Yeah, Dax and three Klingons walk into a bar. It's called Blood Oath.
Blood Oath. Okay, it's blood something here.
Richard Carlisle as the geophysicist is what he's credited as. I think he's a weatherman.
Well, geophysics could also be about plate tectonics, or even upper atmosphere stuff plasma spheres and things like that.
Yeah.
But in this case, yeah,
I'm pretty sure they reference him as their meteorologist in the show. He's named Carl Yeager. He's played a variety of characters on TV in the 50s. He starred on something called Cassidy the Crime Photographer.
Never heard of it.
I know, but I just loved the name. It's Casey, Crime Photographer.
I think I like that title. Now I'm having flashbacks to an X-Files episode. Anyway.
Michael Berner plays Lieutenant DeSalle, this random dude. We know nothing about him except that he's French-ish. DeSalle. Yeah, I can't pronounce French names. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No worries. I took French in high school. I know that was ancient history at this point, but hey, at least that means I can pronounce archaic French now.
Yeah.
Because it was so long ago.
I had Spanish in high school, and I can't even remember all the numbers, so you're doing better than me. Vanita Wolf is playing Yeoman Teresa Ross. She was actually a pretty well-known model around this time period, so I think now they've gotten rid of Yeoman Rand, they're just bringing on various famous, attractive women on to play the yeoman for the episode.
Does she ever show up again in Star Trek?
I think once, if I remember the credits right. I think she shows up once, but I think it's a different character.
All right. Change of face, change of name.
Yeah, most of these yeomen either never show up again or they show up like one time as a completely different person.
Poor McCoy and his shore leave, friend there. He's never gonna, make that a thing.
Apparently, they just transfer these women away the minute one of the command officers gets a crush on them.
That's probably a good thing, actually.
I mean, for their own safety, yeah.
Yes.
For, the fact that their careers get ruined instead of this other jerkwads, it's not so good.
No, well, maybe they get, it's like, well, sorry we put you in that situation. Here's a promotion and, a planet.
You know what would have been just great? They just should have done this in Next Gen and DS9. Just anytime they needed to name an off-screen admiral, just give them the name of one of the yeomen from this series.
That would be brilliant. That'd be so fantastic. I love it.
Let's pretend they did that. Okay. I like it better.
Got a new headcanon here, folks.
All right, we should jump in. There's not a ton in this episode. It doesn't drag. And it doesn't really feel like it's too short, but not a lot happens.
Yeah, the plot points are fairly, I guess, contained, and not many of them, honestly.
Yeah, I guess I'll say there's not a lot of plot. It's just exuberantly presented.
Yes, there's a lot of banter.
Yeah, there's a lot of banter, which I'm not going to write down all the banter because that's just me reading the script.
Yes. In my notes, I have several parts where it's they banter back and forth, and then, this is the conclusion.
We join the Enterprise as it is crossing a star desert. Which
cool.
I guess it's just a space void. Now, I just want to know, how far apart do the stars have to be to classify as a star desert? Because they're already at least 7 or 8 light years apart at minimum.
Yes. The closest star to the sun is about 4 light years away. And most in the sort of local area are more than that, between that and sort of 10-ish. And then, there's stars kind of clump up a little bit, but it's, it's sort of that sort of different distances to most of the sort of nearest neighbors. But to be a desert, I guess, dozens, hundreds, maybe? I don't know.
I suppose. This reminds me of that. They had a Star Trek Voyager episode where they wind up in an area of space where for some reason all of the stars are far enough away they can't see any?
I guess.
Which doesn't make any sense at all since we can see other galaxies.
Yes. It's sort of, I guess, has the vibe of okay, they're entering an area with no stars that's also full of a lot of obscuring gas for some reason, I guess.
I suppose. Spock gets confused why Kirk and McCoy have romantic notions about deserts because they're just barren wastelands, apparently.
Spock, why are you being sensible on this ship?
As someone who grew up in a desert, I find that vaguely offensive. The Enterprise then discovers a rogue planet that's sitting out in the void. Kirk orders Sulu to navigate around it, but Sulu appears to get dizzy and then just vanishes.
Well, I think it's been a few episodes since I've done this Freakazoid reference again. Excuse me. Sulu! I'm kidnapping Sulu!
Kirk runs over to see what happens and also just disappears.
Oop.
Credits.
Yes.
Yeah. 2 people randomly disappear, then credits.
It's well, that was weird. Let's get out of here.
Captain's log. Spock is in command, Kirk is gone, and the ship is just orbiting the planet. It's basically anyone who missed the intro.
Yes. We're on red alert, yo, is what my notes here that go for it as well. So
Asala and McCoy want to beam down and search, but the meteorologist Yeager says the planet is way too hostile to life, and any 2 people who went down there without protective gear are dead.
Well, I guess we got to get our spacesuits on, right?
Just then, a message appears on Uhura's screen in a weird Gothic font.
So we're suddenly in the Renaissance Fair?
Yes.
Okay.
Spock reads it as greetings and salutations, then hip hip hurrah, and what he believes is pronounced tally-ho.
Well, this seems reasonable so far, right?
Yeah. McCoy infers that this means there must be life on this planet. Spock agrees, then orders McCoy, DeSalas, and Yeager to beam down.
So either there's life on this planet, or there's some sort of crashed probe here that's just reflecting signals from Earth from millions of years ago, and it's going to come to life and merge with a giant alien and intelligent computer. Sorry, that's Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Anyway.
Also, not millions of years. We're going to confuse people even more with the year references.
but it's so fun in this episode because they don't make any sense.
No, they don't. Beaming down to the source of the transmission, wearing little breathing masks, not spacesuits.
No. So I guess they're fine as far as the general environment goes. They just need the right kind of air.
Yeah, but they actually beam down to a random forest, which they identify as having a breathable atmosphere, not the random toxic storms that they expected to find.
Oh, that's convenient.
They also suddenly find that they are cut off from the ship. The Sally finds a large door that seems to lead into a big castle or something. We never see anything at the exterior except for a big door, so we have no idea what this building looks like.
I'm going to assume it's 10,000 cubits tall and has a giant lollipop on the top.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yes.
They enter to find a well-appointed stateroom in the style of kind of the mid-1800s. With many alien trophies scattered around the room, including a salt monster in one of the alcoves.
Yes, very, very, very familiar there. It's like, wait a moment, you guys just using props now.
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of like, they walk in, and McCoy looks at it for a second and kind of gives it a huh, and then keeps moving.
It's like, where'd you come up with this guy? Come on. It's freaking me out.
They find Kirk and Sulu frozen and looking sort of greenish.
I guess you'd be a little sick of standing on the balcony there yourself. So
yeah. A man suddenly appears playing the harpsichord, which is a very small piano that I had to look up the name of. The man says that he supposes that they want Kirk and Sulu back, even though they make an excellent display pair. He waves his hand. There's this boing sound effect. And they unfreeze. This sound effect plays every time he uses one of his powers.
Yes, we're in one of those episodes.
Yeah. It's not like that. Like so this is very similar. You can think of this as kind of Q if you're familiar with Next Generation. It's one of these god power dudes.
Yes.
But instead of making the cool, like flashy whatever sound effects that Q does, every time he waves his hand, it goes boing.
It's like, well, we're suddenly in Looney Tunes here. Okay.
So it gets more Looney Tunes-y later. Don't worry. Kirk asks what on the world is going on. The man says that he saw them passing and just couldn't resist bringing them down. He introduces himself as General Trelane, retired. He's happy to meet people from the planet that he's been making his hobby. Yeager points out that they are, in fact, 900 light years away from Earth, and that this would explain the decor, since anyone observing the planet from here would be seeing the Earth from 900 years in the past.
Okay. Aren't we in like the 2200s or something like that, or is it the 2300s for this for?
It's supposed to be the 2200s for original series. Okay. Yeah, people have pointed out that this would put Star Trek somewhere in the 2800s.
Yep.
Which they even explain it away. There's like an interview. There's like a little interview intro to this episode from Leonard Nimoy, who's like, "Yeah, no one knew when this show was set when this episode was written."
So we just kind of made it up.
Yes. Trelane is disappointed that he's made a mistake because he just wanted the humans to feel at home.
Thank you? You could, make us feel at home by not kidnapping us first.
Yeah, maybe. No one ever thinks of that.
Yeah.
Kirk asks why they were imprisoned, but Trelane says that they are just his guests, and he wants to hear all about their battles. Refusing to believe that they are actually peaceful, he goes on and on and on about military history of everyone's ancestry, like pointing out that DeSalas is French and talking about Napoleon, and then hearing Yeager's name and imitating Germans. Just very odd and in bad taste.
Yep, very much.
The Siles tries to stun him, but Trelane freezes him, and aside from being upset, he just grabs the phaser and goes, "Oh my god, this is awesome," and starts vaporizing random things in his room.
Yes, including a couple of the monsters he has on display there.
Yes.
Goodbye, Salt Monster.
Trelane explains that his species has developed the technology to manipulate matter by changing it into energy, rearranging it, and putting it back together.
Wait a moment.
Yeah, he's basically invented the replicator.
Yep. So everything here is replicated. Neat. We should have that technology. Someone get on that quickly.
Yeah, it's a mind-controlled replicator, basically. So I guess that's neat. Kirk gets fed up, but Trelane transports him to the unprotected planet where he coughs and rides around for a little bit just to demonstrate that things could be dangerous if he wanted them to be, I guess.
Yes, it's time for you to suffer for a little bit to demonstrate my power.
Yeah, they do that a lot, don't they?
Yeah.
Back on the Enterprise, they have scanned a very, very small part of the planet where life could survive. I love Scotty, because it's like, life could survive on this planet. It's like, yeah, but it couldn't really move.
Just stuck there, small oasis, and you're in the desert planet of doom, in the desert bit of space of doom, I guess.
Spock orders that they beam up any and all life forms that they detect there, because if their crew members are alive, they could only be there.
Yep. Makes
sense.
It's very logical. Good.
On the planet, Trelane is going on and on about military junk again.
He's showing off his flag collection, including the French tricolor, when he's claiming that these flags go back to the Crusades, but French tricolor is like more of a French Revolution era sort of thing.
The good old French Crusades.
Yeah. Well, folks from France were involved in the Crusades back in the day, but they had a very different flag and
it wasn't exactly France.
Yeah, so. It's more like a bunch of people from France.
Yeah.
And parts of territories that is France now that aren't France back then. Borders are weird. History's strange. Anyway.
McCoy says that he's scanned Trelane, that he has no traces of being alive or even existing at all.
He's a hologram.
Yeager points out that the wood fire is not even hot, and Kirk says that this means Trelane is fallible.
Everything's
They
imperfect.
go on and on about this, like he made a time mistake and the fire's not hot. He's not perfect. Oh my god.
Oh no, this obviously kind of influential and powerful being here with technology beyond our scope is fallible. Oh, he's still dangerous. He could still sort of wave his hand and freeze you guys.
Yeah. They also keep going on. It's like, oh, he made a mistake. He doesn't know things. That means he's not all powerful. It's like, no, it means he's not all knowing. All powerful is a different thing.
Yes.
Kirk still wants to go back to the ship, but Trelane is being weird at him.
Yeah, he does that a lot in this one.
Kirk yells about how they have 400 men and women on board that they need to get back to, and Trelane just gets really excited about the prospect of women. Because we have to just have one of those per episode, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I guess at least in this case, it is kind of being shown as sort of a creepy thing and sort of a bad thing. So that's, I guess, a bonus.
Progress, maybe, I guess? Question mark.
Yes.
McCoy receives a transporter signal, and the party is beamed back up to the ship.
Whee! Get us out of here, man!
Spock explains that he just beamed up all life in the area, and they say this confirms that Trelane is in fact not alive because he would have been brought up with them.
Oh, I guess everything's good to go.
This does not become important later. Kirk orders the Enterprise to leave, but then Trelane suddenly appears on the bridge.
Oh, Well, this is awkward. Welcome to the Enterprise. I guess you're our guest now, right?
He says that he's upset with Spock for taking away all his guests, and he transports them back down to the planet, which is now set for dinner.
Well, at least we get to eat, right?
Trelane gets distracted by Uhura, who he's sort of racist at.
A little bit.
Then
to put it lightly.
Sees Yeoman Ross, who gets sort of infatuated with. Kirk pulls him away to talk to Spock. Spock makes some rude comments to Trelane a little bit. I just love the Vulcan insults here. It's like, I object to you.
It's like, well, are you biting your thumb at me? I'm not biting my thumb at you, but I am biting my thumb.
It's even more than that. It's just like, I dislike you. That is all.
I'm so offended. Ah!
Trelane runs back to Yeoman Ross. He magics Uhura into playing the harpsichord while he and Ross dance.
Yep. She just kind of goes along with it, and she's totally cool with this situation.
McCoy is drinking, even though he says that the food and drink don't taste like anything. He still is just carrying around this brandy glass.
Yeah, so in my notes here, when Trelane makes her his hands play, he then starts dancing with Ross. Sulu gets up from the table, and McCoy is already drunk. That's what I have down.
Yep. McCoy has to carry around a drink. It's like, well, it doesn't taste like anything, and it's awful, but I assume it's alcohol.
I think they should be worried about their ship's doctor.
Spock says that he finds the entire thing predictable, because Trelane knows everything about Earth without any substance. Kirk somehow uses this to mean that Trelane is not all-powerful, and also assumes that it means he has a machine helping him do things.
Oh, okay.
Neither of those things means that thing.
It's like, this is a bit of a leap of logic here.
Yeah.
I was like,
also, he told you earlier that he has a machine doing things.
Yes.
So
this isn't new evidence that leads to a conclusion. It's more of a, well, I guess I'm going to pretend it is evidence.
Trelane magics Ross into a new dress, and Kirk observes that Trelane never gets too far away from his mirror. Spock then tells him, of course, that's where the machine is. Kirk is just like, he's vain. He keeps looking at that mirror. Spock goes, yeah, maybe that's where the machine is. And Kirk goes, what do you mean?
Oh, how'd you figure that out?
And also, that machine is probably too small to be the thing that's keeping the place livable.
True.
They can safely try to take it out without all dying.
Hopefully, if they all start dying, they'll figure something out, right?
Kirk has a cunning plan.
A plan? A Kirk plan? Oh, no!
He loudly calls Trelane immature, then gets really jealous about how he's dancing with Ross in a sort of creepy way, even though he's supposed to be pretending to be jealous.
Kirk, you're I hope you're acting here, like, really well.
He's not. He's definitely not. Kirk slaps Trelane and challenges him to a duel. And Trelane just gets so excited that he gets to kill Kirk. It's finally a character I can empathize with.
Hooray! I was, in my notes here, I was so tempted to put down, "Are you threatening me?" Very Beavis and Butthead there reference. Anyway,
Kirk and Trelane line up with dueling pistols.
Old school time.
Trelane fires first, but fires into the air, which actually was like a huge sign of disrespect during that time period when they were having duels.
I'm going to let you shoot first because I'm confident you're going to miss.
Well, it's like, I've given up my shot because you're not even worth me killing.
Yep.
Basically. Kirk shoots the mirror. It reveals machinery, and everything starts to break with ridiculous spring sound effects and even a slide whistle. Yeah, there are slide whistle noises. Trelane gets angry with them and disappears.
He sort of walks into the broken mirror machinery situation there.
Yeah, sort of, but he disappears right before it. It's not like he's walking into the wall. Just
and then like the stuff like changes, so it's not so sparking, and kind of looks like a mural of the broken stuff. It's kind of weird looking.
Back on the ship, Kirk orders full warp speed away from the planet.
Let's get the hell out of here.
Kirk takes a minute to creepily stare at Yeoman Ross, because of course.
Kirk, pay attention to, not her, your job, please.
Then the planet Gothos appears right in front of the ship. They go around it, it appears again, they go around it. They do this for 5 minutes or so.
We're hard left, up, spin around circles. We're going to get away from this somehow, right? It just keeps, following us.
Yeah, Kirk gives up and beams down to the planet by himself this time.
It's time to be, so this guy's sort of, you're trying to be all I'm super alpha male guy person. Kirk's like, well, I can't have that. It can only be one.
Yes, I'm the only alpha male type guy person here.
I'm gonna go deal with this, guys. You guys run away if I don't come back in a little bit.
This time, Kirk appears in a courtroom where Trelane is dressed like an English judge. He threatens Kirk with a noose. Kirk is basically weird. Says that Trelane should blame him alone and let his ship go because they're all like real human beings and living things, not playthings. Yeah. Trelane gets more angry and says that he's going to hang Kirk.
Well, hi, Kirk. It's nice knowing you, kind of.
We get a very brief update on how the ship needs to leave soon, even though it's not that relevant.
Yeah.
Trelane is really happy that he got to feel angry for a little while. Yeah, it's really fleeting. Like, oh my god, I felt anger.
This is so cool, man. Maybe you can have other emotions.
And then, he tells Kirk that he doesn't have a choice about being hung. And then he, makes the noose fly slowly over towards Kirk until it just starts tapping him on the chin.
It's like, hey, come on. It's time for you to get hung. Come on.
Then Kirk just goes around it.
Yeah. So Kirk's like, nah. Oh, don't you really want to? Not really, no. Go away, floating noose of doom.
Trelane complains that this is all too easy, and Kirk gets really weird about how killing him could be really fun if he did it right.
Mm-hmm.
That they should engage in personal conflict. Trelane grabs a sword, and Kirk's like, yeah, do that. And then he basically tells Kirk that he needs to go play hide and seek in the forest.
Yeah. We're going to play the most dangerous game here, folks. Don't worry about it.
Kirk thinks he's being clever and says that, yeah, but maybe we should raise the stakes and you will let my ship go. Manipulating you.
Yes. Well, I guess that's a good play for Kirk. He's basically down there to sort of self-sacrifice for his crew and things like that. But yeah, I'm not sure if this is going to work real well.
Yep. Kirk is teleported outside and he just stands there trying to contact his ship on an obviously not working communicator until Trelane appears and starts shaking a sword around at him awkwardly.
Yes. So I think I need to point out here that Trelane's not very much of a sword fighter, honestly.
Yeah, but also Kirk is not much of anything. They both just randomly flail at each other around trees for a while.
It's rather humorous, actually.
Kirk keeps trying to use his broken communicator, and Trelane keeps complaining about how easy he's making this pursuit.
Kirk, isn't the whole point to give him a challenge so he actually follows through on his deal, maybe?
Yeah, you'd think, but
yeah.
Finally, Trelane just manifests prison bars around Kirk and says that this was so much fun he's going to have to do it with everyone on the ship.
Oh. Well, maybe this backfired.
Trelane says that he won and he orders Kirk to kneel, but Kirk refuses and says some weird stuff about how Trelane didn't win and he's got a lot to learn about winning, as Trelane just really gets more and more upset out of kind of nowhere. And then 2 random energy clouds appear.
Oh, sweet. We got the vapors.
Yep, the vapors. We're in hot, humid south somewhere.
Yes.
Trelane suddenly takes on a weird kid voice affect, complaining about how he was just playing, and the energy cloud things start to talk down to him. And they're like, if you don't behave yourself, we're not going to let you make any more planets. Trelane just fades out, repeating how he would have won. It's just so horrible.
Stop playing with your toys that you're going to break them. But I would have won, Mom.
Yeah, but then he just keeps going, I woulda, until he just disappears. It's just, why? Don't do that. Just stop it.
I guess they're trying to hit down to the point that he's kind of a spoiled brat.
I guess, but nobody acts like that. Nobody, even
not even children. This is very Hollywood child sort of a vibe here.
Bad Hollywood child.
Yeah.
The clouds apologize to Kirk for letting their kid almost kill him and their crew, and then disappear.
Well, I guess we opt to never come back here again.
Mm-hmm. Back on the ship, Spock wants to know how to classify Trelane for their records, because they encountered a new life form that they need to classify for their records.
Oh, so floating gas cloud made into a guy.
Kirk says that they should classify him as a small boy. Like,
little boy.
Seriously, Kirk? Take your job even a little bit seriously.
Yeah.
Then he says that Trelane was probably getting into the same kind of pranks that Spock did as a child, like dipping girls' hair in inkwells and other weird early 1900s activities.
And Spock's just like, huh?
The end.
The end.
Kirk, like, everyone's response should have been, what in the world is an inkwell? When this came out in the 60s, no one knew what an inkwell was.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so inkwell. So I guess, so a well is usually something we extract water from, so I'm guessing this is something similar. So there's a planet somewhere where there's ink under the ground, and we're pumping it out for some reason?
Yeah.
And you're dipping people, the girls' hair in this, so you're like grabbing them and like lowering them down into the well by their feet. What?
Yes, just dunk them headfirst into a well full of ink. See, this I think you're getting at it. You're demonstrating the major problem with this episode. This entire episode, the entire thing, is a build-up to a not very good punchline.
Yeah, I guess, it's sort of, well, we got to build everything up here so the joke follows through, and now.
Yeah, this could have been like a good B story in something like, oh, there's this powerful dude running around, there's some other stuff happening, but then there's this powerful dude running around, and oh, he turns out to be a kid. Isn't that fun and jokey? But, there's something actually going on over here.
Yeah. Sort of a something that complicates matters, not necessarily drives them.
Yeah, there's no particular point to anything that happens in this episode. It's just all kind of build-up of like, look how powerful this person is. Oh, they're a kid. Didn't expect that, did you?
Real ultimate power wielded by a child? Impossible! Even though we've already seen it.
Yeah. And like the Charlie X episodes, he's acting a little more believably like a kid with powers. Like, he doesn't have... He's not acting like a spoiled brat. He's acting like someone who doesn't have a ton of self-control.
Yeah, someone who doesn't understand the responsibilities of such powerful abilities.
Yeah, this is a movie spoiled brat, which does not exist. No one is like this.
It's there's a reason it's sort of a joke trope at this point. It's like, okay, how do we make someone come off completely unbelievable and also annoying? Well, let's play them as a child. of this sort of vibe.
The only thing that I can possibly think is there's sort of this running through line that even exists now, that in the mid 40s, Dr. Spock's parenting book came out. And it was one of the...
Mr. Spock, Doctor.
Yeah, Doctor, not Spock, the show.
Yes.
But it was one of the first books that said that you should be nice to kids and, like, figure out what they need instead of just treating them like weird little pieces of furniture that you need to tell to shut up sometimes.
Yes. It's like, maybe if we treat kids like, small people, they'd be, like, better adjusted and, like, better behaved.
And even now, there are a set of people who believe this is what caused the downfall of modern society, because we were too soft on children.
No, downfall of modern society is a lot more complicated. Also, we're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
We're getting there, but not quite yet.
So the only thing I can think is that this kind of caricature is a response to that, like an early criticism of that way of thinking about kids. Like, oh, yeah, but look at how spoiled bratty this ultimate powered kid got when his parents didn't beat him to death.
Oh, hello, straw man. How are you doing today? It's been 10 seconds since I've seen one of you in this universe.
Except he's just not on screen long enough to be a straw man. Yeah. It's so weird. Like, this is a stretch. It's the only reason I can think that this exists. But, the whole he's a kid reveal is wrapped up in under a minute.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's sort of hinted out throughout the episode. That's why they're always talking about, it's like, well, he's fallible and gets these things wrong. Obviously, if all this power, he should be able to know everything and do all this other thing, which is a lot of assumptions from the crew's part. But it's for the audience, it's supposed to be like, okay, there's something different about this guy. He's less than what he appears.
Yeah,
and it's sort of not necessarily connected to what that is until very much at the end, but it is sort of, I guess, hinted at.
I think this one does kind of exemplify a good thing. It's something that my girlfriend points out over and over and over as we watch these episodes.
Yeah.
There's a constant reoccurring plot thread that goes through every episode where you start with Kirk is in command of the ship. Mm-hmm. Kirk has something happen to him that takes power away from Kirk. Kirk has to spend the rest of the episode regaining his power so that he is in command of the ship at the end.
Yes. My sort of joke about, the alpha male has to go challenge the other, powerful being there for dominance is maybe a little more spot on that in the general sense for all of the episodes we've run into.
Every single episode has been that. But also, every single episode, as I pointed out in The Balance of Terror, he has nothing to do with the outcome.
Yep.
Kirk would have been dead if Trelane's parents hadn't shown up.
Mm-hmm.
The entire crew would have been dead, with nothing they could do about it.
So, just a matter of time before he goes through all of them. Maybe one of them convinces them to maybe live a life of luxury and ease, and they'll come up with some other diversion, but a bunch of them will die for certain before that point.
Yeah. See, I was, of course, comparing this in my head to all of the Q episodes from Next Generation, and I realized there's a really stark contrast between this and, I believe it's Q who? No, that's the one where he becomes human. The Q episode where he introduces them to the Borg.
Oh, yeah. It's like, well, you think you're so powerful, human beings? Well, we're going to show you exactly why you probably shouldn't think that here. I'm not going to, I'm just going to put you here, but I'm going to let events play out until you come to me for help.
Yeah, and that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the episode, spoiler warning, I guess, Captain Picard is about to have his ship destroyed by the Borg, who are immensely more powerful than they are, and there's nothing they're going to be able to do about it. And he says, fine, we're screwed, get us out of this. And just that's the thing, is that entire episode is that admission that you are not prepared for some things and you might need help is the thing that gets you out of the situation.
Yeah.
Which, if Kirk was in that position, he would have yelled at the Borg for a little while, and then a random asteroid would have destroyed the Borg ship, and they would have gone ha-ha, all done with that.
Yeah, humans are awesome. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
I guess as far as super powerful beings and things like that in Star Trek, this one actually had me reminding of the TNG episode Devil's Due a bit. Namely in that you had this, being that, who shows up and claims to basically be the devil. And, they seem to be able to cause earthquakes and, change their form and do all sorts of other sort of, crazy tricks. And in very sort of a Trelane sort of vibe, to a various degree here. It was also sort of there's also a technological component to all of this. And it ends up she's much more of a fraud than Trelane is here.
Yeah. But I think that it gets to a really interesting thing when you have the superpowered characters.
Mm-hmm.
Because superpowered characters, as has been pointed out with Superman a lot, are very uninteresting.
Yeah.
They don't have any stakes. They can't have any stakes. They are an all-powerful being. You can't do anything to them. They can do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. They are a very, very boring character.
Here's my perfect jawline, and you could punch it all you like, but I'm just going to win.
Yeah. So the reason that Q and the devil in Devil's Due and is to a certain extent Trelane are interesting characters is because they just let these actors overact and do whatever they want, and they're just having so much fun.
Yeah.
I actually kind of I enjoyed this episode. It's not a good episode by any stretch of the imagination, but it's enjoyable because Trelane is just chewing the scenery left and right and having a grand time.
Yep. In fact, that's sort of, I guess, the reason that character is there at that, in this setting up with this entire, situation is to basically have a lot of fun. He is there to strut his stuff, act like this strong gentleman of the 19th century, and he talks about, it's like, are you your predatory instincts, and I'm going to be all bluster and banter, and it's like, oh, well, tell me about your conflicts and your violence and all this other thing, and he's just sort of trying to indulge all of this so much. That's why in my little intro bit there, I mentioned like this guy is basically cosplaying somebody of that era, and that's his MO.
Yeah, and that's like the one saving grace here is that he's doing his random grand old time thing.
Yep.
They just don't do anything interesting with the overpowered characters because they kind of they suggest that Kirk is on par with this guy.
He's not.
Yeah. But they do everything to make you feel like, oh, Kirk can take this guy on, even though this guy could kill him with a thought. Literally.
Yes. This is very much nigh unto an amoeba here situation here, Kirk. You're the amoeba.
Yeah, there's always been kind of a... In this one, they get very hostile at each other. Mm-hmm. In any of the Q episodes, be it Next Gen, DS9, or Voyager, there's more of a antagonistic camaraderie.
Yes.
Q likes all these people, which is why he doesn't kill them immediately.
Yes. It's like, well, I'm going to have some fun with you, and I find you interesting, and
yeah, he's like that.
Did punch me,
he's like that guy that always hangs around and thinks he's your friend, even though everyone finds them incredibly annoying and wants them to go away.
Yes, I had several of those back in high school, and even my other friends are like, "Yeah, can we just not invite him?" And everyone's like, "Okay."
Yeah, Trelane they make into more of an antagonist who's supposed to seem dangerous. Which doesn't work with an all-powerful being.
If he's dangerous, then he just wins. He does what he wants to do, and then you are done.
Yeah, and he does. Yeah. Up until the point that his parents show up and take him away.
Yes. It's like, well, here's our Deus Ex Machina for the episode, and nothing matters.
All right, so you had something that you wanted to talk about. That's not just dumping on this episode.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to agree that among the series so far, this is one of the better ones. I have to agree there. But it sort of reminded me of a conversation I was having with a friend of mine, a few months back about wargaming.
Oh.
So a lot of sort of the culture of wargaming comes in a variety of sort of genres. I play a lot of grand strategy games. I do a bunch of those on my YouTube channel, including a game called Crusader Kings 2. That on the surface very much looks like the horrible person simulator, but because a lot of the mechanics about the game is interplay of interpersonal relationships as well as moving armies around on a map. And there's sort of a lot of mechanics in there that, if your character's a good person, you can, get away with, having everyone get along, working together, managing your empire, in a very sensible fashion. If your character, as generated by the game and your decisions leading up to that point of becoming that character, is a horrible person, then you kind of are, in a situation where you are going to inevitably get up to some really kind of horrible things, in the context of the game. It's all done with numbers and little icons on map, but it sort of was, sort of those things that sort of always in the back of my head. It's like, this is sort of a thing that if I did not understand that these simulated people in this game are bad people, and I started doing what some other folks that sort of are super into this genre are, kind of about of sort of, it's like, well, this is a fun game, so I'm going to try to emulate this in every single thing that I sort of think about and see the world. Then you start having problems, which is sort of kind of what Trelane's doing here. He's sort of looking at the Earth of, quote, 900 years ago, and sort of seeing, it's like, oh, this is a fun game these people play, and I'm going to try to emulate it, and I'm going to attempt to, sort of internalize this world of logic that seems to be a-okay for those folks at that time, and I'm going to not necessarily realize that, oh, even back then it was kind of terrible behavior, and so it's sort of to a certain degree, you can sort of say in his case, because he is so alien, he is being beyond our comprehension, that, that there's an understandability to his not getting it, but it does also remind me of the folks that are sort of into that, that sort of, indulging of of things of the past like that are human and don't get it. And that's always something that's kind of been, I guess, sort of bugging me for quite some time, even well before I started playing this particular game I mentioned, that there are, trying to not sort of go directly to the, everything is political, but it kind of is.
Well, everything is political by its very nature. It's unavoidable.
Yes, and I wanted to meander a little bit before I got there, but maybe let's hit it up straight up. That there's been, I guess, sort of several, overt and subversive, trends in wargaming to basically try to sanitize history. That, to one degree, if you sort of cut out, certain, things that happened, you are sort of effectively censoring them. You are eliminating them from the mind of the players. And if someone's coming to this game only knowing of the, happy-go-lucky mechanics that still might be, horrific when you sort of think about them, it's like, oh, I'm sending hundreds of thousands of people off to their death. Oh, okay, whatever. But if but even if you sort of are able to sort of process that and not sort of realize the horrors of it, cutting out stuff that, actually happened, it can be kind of disturbing. Then on the other hand, do you really want to have a war game where you're actually, simulating the Holocaust? Not really.
Well, they have that game that came out a couple of years ago called This War of Mine.
Ah, yes.
Where you're not playing as a general or a commander or someone, or even a military person. And it becomes a horror survival game. Yes. As a group of little, not even refugees, just people who live in a city that a war has taken hold of. And now they have to struggle to survive with no resources and people shooting all over the place, and basically society devolving around them.
And it's a game where you are sort of trying to maybe band together with some people that you can sort of, work with. But you also, are always going to have some uncertainty about, so, okay, are the people that we're going to run into in this location over here, are they going to be friendly or are they going to be hostile? And if they're hostile, are we going to be able to get in and out without getting ourselves killed?
Yeah, it's a very interesting game on that side. It even has a mechanic where killing someone psychologically devastates your characters. Mm-hmm. They will, if you have one of your characters kill someone, they can become like psychologically numb to the point that they become useless for a while. Just a really interesting mechanic you don't see. And I think that's kind of the thing that you hit with wargaming, because that one is so on the micro level. Like, This War of Mine is very looking into the personal stories of a small group of people that is living during a war. But most of the games, especially the grand strategy games, but even the tactics games, your perspective is of one of the powerful people who is not particularly affected by the outcome of this conflict.
Yes.
Like, no matter what happens, you're going to be mostly fine. This can't really affect you other than some kind of winning or losing idea, which you get into this mindset, and especially around this time, coming off of the Vietnam War for the 1960s here, you get this thing that they kept getting into these, like, anti-communist conflicts for no other reason than we're America and we have to win, and overcommitting troops and making a lot of horrible military mistakes for no other reason than, like, we have to win and defeat is unacceptable and all that stuff, regardless of the cost to the people who are actually fighting and affected by this conflict.
Yes, you, the small people, the little people, can go fight the war, while I, my white tet, get to sit on the hill and overlook the battle and command the troops. And isn't this a glorious day to be fighting against our terrible enemy over there? We seem to be losing on that side. Send in some more cannon fodder, whatever.
And I think this gets down to something that I was thinking about earlier today, on the side of why some people seem to take these weird, horrible messages from different things than, like, other people do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes down to self-reflection. Because it's fine. Like the grand strategy games. I like tactics games. I've played a few grand strategy games. Like, they're interesting and fun. And I've been like a military history buff since I was like 13.
Oh.
So there's some interest to it. But you have to kind of keep in mind the perspective that this is giving you. Yes. And question that perspective. If you just unquestioningly take any kind of message away from things without examining it, you can wind up with some kind of horrible messages that I don't think these are intended in these games. Nobody's going into this game saying, like, I want to make someone feel like a horrible military dictator and that'll be great. Just the perspective that you have necessitates a certain viewpoint, and without questioning that viewpoint, it can lead you to some kind of unpleasant areas.
Yes. And that's why I don't go to certain Reddit threads very often. The lack of self-awareness and self-reflection there. It's like, okay, you are kind of making a joke about these games here in these in certain contexts. But when you sort of take a step back and, it's like, okay, there's something, jokes that are kind of like, okay, there's an element of the game that's just kind of ridiculous, and we kind of like poke fun at just how ridiculous it is, even though it's technically a horrible thing and wasn't really a thing in the real world. There's other things like, I wish this was more like how it was back in the day, and I want to be able to murder more people like this. Getting uncomfortable now.
Yeah, I actually kind of wonder, when you first mentioned this, we were talking about how on earth we're going to turn this episode into anything.
Yeah.
And when you first mentioned this a couple days ago, it got me thinking that I kind of wonder if some of that was in this episode. Not necessarily directly, but the kind of wargaming culture as we know it had really begun to emerge in the 1950s.
Yep.
There's been kind of miniature wargaming around for hundreds and hundreds of years as just a concept, but yes. The modern versions sort of began in the early 1900s. Like H.G. Wells actually wrote a codified book of rules called Little Wars for miniature war games, and there were a few others that came out around that time period. And then the culture itself started to develop in the 1950s. I even found, I was on YouTube a while ago, and I just randomly found this old show that I think was sometime around the 60s or 70s that was just this really long kind of 5-hour BBC broadcast of 3 guys in suits playing this massive war game across like an entire floor that was modeled up with mountains and towns and things. So there were these kinds of people around, and I kind of wonder if this was at least inspired by that kind of like military obsessed history buff that was starting to really come into its own around this time period.
Which it's like when I was watching the episodes, like this reminds me of so much of that exact sort of thing. It's like, okay, you think it's like, okay, what would somebody that's a military war buff do and say and behave if suddenly, like, okay, I'm suddenly hanging out with Otto von Bismarck. Yeah?
Yeah. And there's also kind of the other side and how Bismarck would think you were an idiot.
Yes. Well, I think you thought of that about a lot of people. Yes.
Yeah. Which they kind of did in this. So I guess there's that. It's kind of interesting on that point. I still don't think it's saying anything. I feel like we really, really have to stretch on this episode to get it to do much.
But hey, at least it gave us an excuse to talk about some things on our own. That was pretty cool.
That's true. If you want to go over to Izix's YouTube channel and you can watch him be a horrible person in grand strategy games.
Yep. I need to get back to probably progress quite a bit before this episode goes out. But my most recent Crusader Kings 2 campaign was where I'm basically trying to gain enough power to invade China, and hopefully not lose horribly.
Oh, you will. Don't worry. I have faith.
Probably.
In you. Now, Izix, it is time for the galaxy's new favorite game show.
Woo!
I understand that you have some awards for our contestants.
Ah, yes, we do, Gepwin. Today, we got 4 awards to hand out to various characters and players of our game today. First award goes to Trelane and his parents for being sufficiently advanced aliens. Gepwin, what did they win?
The Trelane family wins a ridiculous computer that makes slide whistle noises.
Whew. I'm not very good at slide whistles. Anyway, that's a fantastic gift there. Everyone loves a slide whistle. The second award is Irresponsible Parent, going to Trelane's parents and to Kirk for being a bad father figure once again. What did they win?
They all get to go home with a copy of Baby and Child Care, 1946, published by Dr. Benjamin Spock, still to this day considered a good guide for progressive parenting.
Fantastic. I hope they learned so much from that, though I suspect Kirk probably won't read it at all. Our third award is the Stockholm Syndrome Award. It goes to Yeoman Teresa Ross for her dancing with Trelane and seemingly to really enjoy it. What does she win?
Yeoman Ross wins a tired reference to Beauty and the Beast.
Ah, yes. A classic, story about, well, I guess maybe check out Lindsay Ellis's rundown of it for more enlightened discussions on it. Anyway, moving on. Finally, we got our fourth award, is the Fanboy Award, going to Trelane for being, well, kind of a fanboy. What does he win?
Trelane wins the complete box set DVD set of original series episodes, which is now completely obsolete given the internet, but they still had cool little plastic cases that opened up in this weird way, and they were just neat.
Fantastic. Trelane, I hope you enjoy your box set, and I hope you have the right kind of player for it. Otherwise, you could just use your magical device to create one. Have fun.
Thank you all, and I hope that you've enjoyed the galaxy's new favorite game show.
Woo! Yay!
Well, next episode is one of the more famous ones, actually. It's probably one that everyone knows, if not by name.
Yes, the visuals for it are kind of telling. It's some sort of lizard man, apparently. Yes, and then sort of
lizard man.
Yeah. And a quarry set. No, not quite a quarry. More of that desert that they visited on shore leave with a rock and things like that.
Yes, many rocks, many deserts. It is, of course. Well, maybe not, of course, because no one knows the name of this episode.
Because it's kind of an unremarkable name, honestly.
Yes, it is called Arena. Which, I guess, now that we have the Battle Royale genre, it's somewhat apt.
So, we're going to have a Battle Royale between Kirk and some sort of Gorn fellow?
Yes, the Gorn. The ridiculous lizard alien that I think anyone, someone who's never seen a single episode of Star Trek would be able to look at this thing and go, oh, that's that Star Trek thing.
Yep. kind of a iconic, creature from this era of Star Trek. They show up a couple times later, I think, maybe.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that later.
There was at least one in a really bad episode of, or a really bad part of an episode on Star Trek Enterprise.
Yes.
And some other things. But yeah, they're just, I don't know anything about them other than the bad lizard suit, honestly.
Maybe they show up in the animated series.
Possibly. Well, I guess we'll find out. Ugh. Oh, you can join myself and Dr. Isix next week on Watchers of Tomorrow, where we will be talking about Star Trek, the original series, episode 18, Arena.
Woot. Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, powerful beings send Kirk back to a previously used location set to once again get in a fistfight. You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix and Twitter @IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you, that is now, no longer exists.